Right, hello everybody. Welcome back to Drive Time. This 7 o'clock, and it's time for episode 5. And I'm delighted to say we are joined by Nadine Lewis. Nadine, how are you? Are you well? Recovered from Motorsport, of course. You've been a busy lady, haven't you?
I have. I've been at Motorsport the last 4 days, so yes, just about recovered. Nice to be at work, sat down rather than being stood up for 4 days. So yeah, back to work for a rest.
Not many people say that, do they? Back to work for a rest. You must be mad. You must be mad. But anyway, Nadine, we're on here for a reason. The reason is we want to find out about you and what it is you do in motorsport. So first question, of course, is Nadine Lewis. For those who don't know, I'm sure plenty of people already do, but for those who don't know, what is your involvement in motorsport?
So my primary involvement is as a volunteer. I'm a motorsport volunteer across the UK. I'm based in Cheshire, so Alton Park being my local circuit, but I do travel around being a volunteer marshal at plenty of events around the country. I'm also national chair of the British Motorsports Marshals Club, which is the biggest single marshals club in the country. We've got 2,500 members who are out and about all weekends, every weekend possible, rallying, karting, hill climbing, speed events, as well as racing.
That is remarkable. Now, forgive my ignorance. We spoke a little bit, didn't we, off the recording about when I'm out broadcasting, I always say thank you to the Orange Army, but I've never really done too much research about it. So if I wanted to become a marshal, would I join with you guys and then you would arrange for me to go to the tracks, or would it be the circuit that I would go to? How does it work?
Okay, so there's lots of different clubs that you can join to be a marshal, and it depends probably on what kind of marshalling you want to do as to which avenue you may end up going down. We, as the British Motorsport Marshals Club, we have a website, so dead easy, www.marshals.co.uk. And we sign people up for taster days for circuits and for rallying primarily. So people can come along, try a day, see what it's about, and then we can help you progress and get involved further as to what the next steps are, how you go about getting involved. So the circuits don't tend to bring marshals in apart from their weekday, what I would class as their weekday paid employee marshals who look after the track days, look after those days of testing that happen midweek. And then the volunteers are the ones who turn up at the weekend when it gets exciting, when the racings are on. So we basically help in terms of us as a club. We would help you with your volunteering, so to help you volunteer for the events you want to do. And as a volunteer, you only have to do maybe 4 days a year to keep your hand in, as it were. But if you wanted to do more, if you want to progress, if you want to end up somewhere like Formula One, you need to do a certain number of days each year. You need to do a sort of training, and you need to gain a certain amount of experience. So all of that equates to being able to go and do other things. All of us are part of Motorsport UK, so the governing body of motorsport in this country. And they have a good little online starter package, which is quite a good little training program for people to sign up to find out the basics of marshalling. Explains a little bit about the different disciplines that I mentioned earlier. And then you can kind of think, quite fancy that one. I'd like to give that one a go, or I'd try all of them because I don't know. And we can help you do that. And there's other clubs that can help you do that. So I would say that we as the national club, as it were, covering all disciplines, can help you do everything. If you want a bit of a mixture, not really sure where to go. If you particularly want to stay to your local circuit, we're probably the ones that'll help you do that. But if you wanted to follow a particular championship, or you wanted to be part of a particular rally sector, so some of the sectors in rallies are controlled by radio, and they all group together, and that group of radio people go and run a stage, as it were. So if you want to do something that specific, you might want to join a specific club to help you do that. But we probably are the starting point for a lot of people. And then they might go down that route of saying, actually, I really like that club and I want to do every event they do wherever they are in the country. So by joining that club, I get to get their information directly, and then I can go straight on to do whatever they want to do. I would say quite a few people are members of us and members of other clubs as well.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to be a member of one, but you might want to be members of a number because you want to use them for different reasons. You want to follow particular championships, or you want to get certain aspects of marshalling by joining a different club.
It sounds to me, I mean, aside from the obvious with regards to marshalling, if you get to up close and personal with the cars and the drivers, why else should people go marshalling?
Well, I find it, I call it my orange family. So they're that there's a couple of obscure cousins that we don't talk about in there, but that's the same as any real life family. But generally speaking, I would say the vast majority of people are there because they have the same interests. So we're there because we love motorsport. It doesn't matter what your background is, what your age is, what your ability is. Where you've come from, it's like I've been on post. In fact, I consider people my best friends who are Navy helicopter pilots, as well as people who run their own businesses, and anything in between. So it really doesn't matter what your day job is. It's a total level playing field that we're all there because we love motorsport. So week in, week out, I love the fact that I'm probably on post with a different person every week. So I get to talk to somebody new, find out about them, and have a really interesting conversation if the racing gets a bit boring. But equally, we're there to enjoy the motorsport from first hand. And I say, for me personally, it's a total switch off from work. So my day job, just for interest, is logistics and warehouse manager. So I look after sheds and trucks, to put it very simply, move stuff around, put it in a shed, and then move it to somewhere else. So it's completely different to that. It's just a completely different way of thinking. And I can literally switch off from work. I can literally go and do a day's marshalling, get home, and not have things thought, unless somebody's asked me about my job. I've not had to think about work at all and make any of those kind of decisions that I'm doing on a daily basis at work. So from a mental health point of view, it's great because you can go and do something else. You stood outside all day, which, okay, the weather isn't always helpful to that, but actually just being stood outside in the weather, whatever the weather's doing, is actually good for your health too. And from a perspective of learning and development, I would say, particularly for youngsters, particularly for cadets coming in, so you can start marshalling at 11.
Really? Wow.
Which I really wish I'd known about, because I didn't start until I was about 25. But you can start from 11, and to see some of the cadets progress and develop. They do the tannoy announcements in the paddock, and they're telling drivers where to go and what to do. So to see them develop is phenomenal. So it can help their CVs, it can help from a STEM perspective, all of that. That's great, good stuff that people want to learn about through school. And so just it covers so many different aspects, and you're doing something potentially dangerous, but hopefully have a bit of fun along the way, and experience some great interaction with people.
I was going to say, some of the skills you learn must be quite remarkable as well, alongside sort of first aid skills, but how to deal with certain situations, how to deal with angry drivers, I imagine, is something you probably have to go off. And when you watch the Formula One, you see a driver retired, they're normally none too happy, are they, to be touched or something, or things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably one thing we do teach people, is don't touch them. let them have a rant in a corner somewhere, and maybe direct them if they're in a place of danger, but otherwise just leave them to it. But yes, I think all of those skills that you learn, and I have to say, even in job interviews, I've used examples from my motorsport hobby as examples of teamwork, of those examples that they always ask you in interviews, and you kind of can't think of one that's work related, but I've got a bank full of them that I could respond to that relate to my hobby, and it always goes down well. It's always kind of like something a bit different and a different aspect. So it's great skill set that you can pick up.
I was going to say, career prospects, I imagine it's very appealing to prospective employees. Really, I can imagine that. And going back to the mental health side of things as well, whenever I'm trackside, I've never met such a bunch of happy people as the Marshals. I'm not just saying it to be nice, but I guess it's because you're doing what you love, aren't you? when you're almost paid for something, sometimes it can feel a bit of a chore. But when you're volunteering, it's purely for the love, isn't it?
Exactly, we're there because we want to be there. If we didn't want to be there, we wouldn't volunteer for it. So yeah, I can quite imagine. I mean, sometimes it can get a bit, if the weather's been really bad all day and you just really want to go home. And I've said to new people as they start, I said, you get to the point in the day where you literally, the only way you're going to get through the day is you're thinking, am I having a bath or a shower when I get home? And is it a beer or a glass of wine that's going to accompany it, or after or before?
Both.
It's that thought. And curry or Chinese, you're like, that's your thought process is, right, what am I having when I get home for my tea? And that'll get you through the rest of the day.
I bet it's quite a satisfying feeling when you do get home, though, isn't it? I bet you have a feel-good feel. But look, Nadine, let's touch on your opinion on how club racing is in the UK at the minute. Heading into 2023, what are your thoughts? How strong do you feel the club racing scene is in the UK heading into this year?
So I think it's actually quite strong. I think COVID showed that as well. I think when we came out of COVID and we were allowed to go racing, everybody was so keen to go. Yeah. It was almost like they're literally itching to get out there, and the grids were massive on some occasions. So there's a lot of keenness out there, I would say, from that perspective. And already seeing that, I was talking to a number of the clubs at the weekend at Motorsports, and they tend to get the feel of how things are going on the Thursday, Friday with the trade days, particularly. And they were saying they were signing up new people. They were getting people signing up for first events, and they were getting names down. So it's like there's definitely an appetite. There's definitely an appetite for it out there. So I think club racing is very buoyant. There's a number of new championships coming on board that seem to have fairly full grids, or people seem very enthusiastic to be getting the cars ready for those new championships. So there's something going. There's something definitely positive going on.
I like that. There's definitely something going on. Let's go from one end of the scale, shall we? The lifeblood of motorsport is club racing, of course, to the very elite, right to the very top. So Formula One, Formula E, IndyCar, NASCAR, WRC. There are others. These are just ones that I've just plucked off. And of course, there's a character limit for what I can write in the little boxes as well. But which, in your opinion, offers the best all-round value? Now, when I talk about all-round value, talking fan sponsors, career prospects, I'm not just talking Formula One's got the most money, so that's the one you want to be in. I'm talking as a fan, spectator, trackside, and watching on TV. As a sponsor, bang for buck, corporate hospitality, yes, cost of actual getting your stickers on the logo, and career prospects. And talking of career prospects, we're talking marshalling here. We're talking mechanics. We're not just talking race driver. We're talking media. We're talking all sorts of things. Which offers the best overall package, do you think?
It's a really, really tough question. I think Formula One has its fans, and it obviously has its people who don't particularly like Formula One. And I think it is the pinnacle. And I think that's what people should look at, is like that's probably the one that I want to do. That's where I want to end up. That's where I want to be, because to have that on my CV is going to be fantastic. But I would say some of the UK championships have got some real good prospects in there. There's things like Praga. I know they had a fairly small club a championship last year, but they've got some decent championship prospects in the different championships that they're looking at racing. We had a Praga on our stand. It had an awful lot of interest. There was an awful lot of people who were interested in just the car itself, and the prospects that go with it. And I think from a perspective of where people want to be career-wise, I think some of those smaller champions, so even British GTs or Ginetta, Ginetta offer so many different championships that they're involved in, that somewhere along the line there's going to be something that you could get your hands on. So I think anything from that perspective, and I think from a fan's perspective, so obviously most of the time I'm at a race circuit, I am there as a marshal, but from a fan's perspective, I think you count the marshals as fans, because that's what we are in the first place. It's where we're entertained. So as long as we're entertained, and the grids are reasonable size, and you can get close and personal. So anything that allows access, so something like touring cars where they give you the grid walk, gives you that access, and it's it's not horrifically expensive to do a grid walk in F1.
Definitely not Formula One then.
A lot more expensive. But anything like that where you actually can get up close and personal and see the cars and get involved. And a lot of the universities and colleges offer those possibilities of working with those kind of teams, and that's the way to go, I would say. And that then again looks great on CVs for potentially a Formula One team in the future.
I really like that. Top sort of British championships. I like that. Funny, I've been involved with Praga through Britcar and things. I can tell you those cars, they are something else. They really are. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, actually. It's something I've really wanted somebody to say, and you're the first person to really go into detail on it, is access. Is access for fans. Formula One is great. I'm a Formula One fan, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
However, unless you've got a media passer involved with the team, getting access is, forget it. It's impossible. Whereas other series do.
And I to add to that, I've seen Formula One in other countries, so I've been lucky enough to combine it with a holiday, and I have to say the most bizarre experience was in Malaysia, and you could basically, if you could get to the circuit, so you could get there by train, and it was $20 or whatever it was, from the centre of Kuala Lumpur. You know, so you could get there. And you could get into the central part where you couldn't get into the grandstand. So you had to have a grandstand seat to be able to watch it. But you could get into the middle bit where all the trade stands were. So you could walk around. You could literally go and buy yourself a hat, T-shirt. You know, you could look the part completely. And then we were there. I remember standing there on the Saturday. No, it was the Friday. It was the Saturday. And we were like, something's going on in this big, huge marquee that they've got set up. So we had a bit of a wander to get a bit of a closer look and realised they were doing driver interviews in a marquee that people could literally stand outside of, and not having bought a ticket, you could be there.
Wow.
And it was like, this is like really good. You never get that close in the UK ever at all. And then on the Sunday morning, they literally were bringing the drivers in by minibus to this area in the middle. And they were literally 3 or 4 of them were in at one time. And the queue, there was no extra charge. You could literally join this queue and go and meet somebody.
Wow.
And have your phone. And they literally, it was enough time. It's like, you either have a photo or you shake the hand. That's your choice.
Yeah.
And it's like that next.
Yeah.
But it was like, this is
effective,
so much
though,
access.
isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And it was really funny because Felipe Massi was driving for Williams at the time. And I'd realised where the drivers were getting out of the minibus was the best place to get photos. Because not selfies, but you could get a photo of the drivers as they were getting out. And Felipe Massa got out of his minibus, and you can't tell until the doors open because they're all blacked out. And he gets out, and I hadn't realised that his number one Asian fan was stood in front of me. Hadn't twigged that she was head to toe in Williams kit. You know, literally everything said Williams on it. And he literally got out of the minibus, walked across to her, and gave her a hug. And I literally stood there going, this is phenomenal. It's like, that's just amazing. And then he went into the marquee to then go and greet other people. And I was like, wow. That's
not so
access.
sure I can see this happening at Silverstone.
No, not at all. They would get mobbed, but obviously there's less fans in Malaysia, and the fans who were there were probably visitors like us. We spoke to a lot of people who'd come over from Singapore, people who'd come over from Australia because it was cheaper, and they got this access that they knew about. It was just like mind-blowing. Wow. Absolutely mind-blowing.
That is access, and that's probably been tightened up now.
I would think so. It was a few years ago, but it was kind of like, wow, really? It's like I've not got that close to a Formula One driver before, ever.
Nadine, let's come to the future then, shall we? Let's get our crystal ball out and see if we can gaze 5 to 10 years into the future. How do you think motorsport's going to look across the whole spectrum?
So obviously, I think electric vehicles are going to come into it quite a lot, and that we are going to see more and more championships going down the electric route. But I think the historic scene will hang on. I think the historic scene will grow, in the sense that that's where people will be like, that's where I really need to be because I need to hear the noise and I smell the engine. So I think historic will probably have a resurgence. I think some disciplines. So I think rallying, particularly in the UK, rallying is having a tough time, and it's purely because of locations. So it's trying to find the venues that will let them run. And obviously the environmental aspect and the impact that a rally has through a forest is higher than a circuit that's permanent, as it were. So I think that I see rally struggling. I see rally becoming more and more of an issue. But I think anything where somebody can bring their own car and give it a drive, so auto tests and auto solos that we have loads of in this country, they're on the up already. And if people can bring an electric vehicle to one of those and get it to go around an auto test quite quickly, that's going to be something that people are going to want to do. So I think it's kind of the extremes that will probably progress. And then there will be some, I think there's probably certain championships that will start to just drift away. And maybe there needs to be a catch-all championship for all of those people who still want to race but have got nobody else to race with, and they can stick them all in one.
It'll be a bit of a hodgepodge of different things, won't it? About 38 million classes in one grid.
Just stick them all together and see what happens. So just so that somebody somewhere can get a drive out there.
Absolutely. So let's come to this year for you then, Nadine. What does 2023 have in store for you?
So 2023, another busy year in prospect, probably. I've not quite completed my calendar dates yet, but considering I did about 41 days marshalling last year, it's probably looking similar lines this year. We as a club, we run a sprint at Kerbra, and it's our 30th anniversary this year, so in May. So I'll be going along to that one to give the support to the club for the activity that's been ongoing for some time, which is great. And a number of events around the country. Probably not Formula One this year, although I wasn't actually marshalling there last year, but I did get to go.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Now, probably the most important question you'll be asked certainly today. Bonus question. Nadine Lewis, what is better, tea or coffee?
Going to be coffee if it's in the morning.
Yeah, that's the right answer. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer, but coffee is the right answer. Nadine, thanks so much for joining us. It has been a real treat. One last time, just give us that website again, please.
Yeah, it's www.marshals.co.uk. 1 L in Marshals.
1 L. In fact, to make life even easier for everybody, we have put it in the description text for this video. You don't have to click it. You can just, you don't have to type it. Just click it. It'll take you straight through to the website. Nadine, thank you so much. When I'm next up at Alton Park, I'll make sure I can say hello because I will be up quite a lot this year, no doubt.
Excellent. Look forward to it, Ian. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Now, don't forget tomorrow, everybody, drive time 7 o'clock. This is episode 5. Tomorrow, episode 6. Rob Lee is joining us, somebody you know very well. Isn't that right, Nadine? So we're going to find out even more about marshalling, so make sure you stay tuned. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.